You're listening to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast with Wendy Johnson, episode number 70.
Welcome to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast, where women come to be inspired and motivated to become the best version of themselves and elevate the quality of their everyday. Now, here's your host, certified life coach, Wendy Johnson.
Hello, beautiful friends. I'm excited to be with you today. Welcome back to the Extraordinary Everyday. I'm your host, Wendy Johnson, and today we're diving into a topic that touches all of us, happiness. We hear it all the time. Happiness is a choice. But is it really that simple? What does science say about happiness and how much of it is actually in our control? Today, we'll explore the latest research on happiness, look at the role of mindset, habits, and even genetics, and discover practical ways to bring more joy into our everyday lives. First, let's define happiness. According to positive psychology, happiness isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It's more about overall life satisfaction, meaning, and a sense of well-being. Researchers often refer to this as subjective well-being, which combines how we feel in daily life with how satisfied we are with life as a whole. But what actually contributes to happiness? Studies suggest a combination of three factors: genetics, life circumstances, and intentional activities. Here's the surprising part. Research by Dr. Sonia Lyubomirsky, I hope I pronounced her name correctly, shows that about 50% of our happiness is determined by genetics, 10% by life circumstances, and 40% by intentional actions and mindset. This means a large portion of our happiness is within our control, but not all of it. Let's dive into the role of the first two factors, genetics and life circumstances. Research in positive psychology reveals that around 50% of our happiness is determined by our genetic makeup. This concept, known as the happiness set point, suggests that each of us has a baseline level of happiness that we tend to return to, regardless of life's ups and downs. You might notice that some people seem to bounce back from adversity faster, while others are more prone to prolonged sadness or anxiety. This difference is often influenced by genetic factors. Studies on twins have provided strong evidence for this set point theory. Even when raised in completely different environments, identical twins tend to have similar happiness levels throughout their lives, while fraternal twins show more variation. What this means is that while some of us may naturally have a higher baseline of happiness, that doesn't mean we're powerless to increase our happiness. However, it's important not to see this genetic factor is limiting. While 50% may be genetically influenced, it's only half of the equation. The remaining portion is determined by other factors that we can influence. More on that in a moment. Now I want to talk about circumstances. Circumstances are life events and external factors like wealth, relationships, health, and career. Contrary to what many believe, only about 10% of our long-term happiness is influenced by our life circumstances. This may be surprising because we often associate happiness with external milestones, things like getting a promotion, buying a house, or getting married. However, studies have shown that the happiness boost we get from these events tends to be temporary. For example, let's consider major life changes like winning the lottery. Research shows that while lottery winners experience an initial spike in happiness, within a year or two, they often return to their previous levels of happiness. The same is true for negative events. While tragic events can temporarily reduce happiness, most people eventually rebound back to their baseline. So if genetic accounts for 50% and life circumstances only 10%, what makes up the rest? This is where intentional activities come in. The remaining 40% of our happiness is shaped by these intentional activities. And these are the choices we make and the actions we take in our everyday lives. This is where we hold the most control and influence over our happiness. The science of happiness shows that by making small, intentional changes in our daily habits and mindset, we can significantly improve our overall well-being. Let's explore some of the most powerful strategies backed by research. The first is practicing gratitude. Gratitude is one of the simplest yet most effective ways to boost happiness. Studies have found that regularly practicing gratitude can increase happiness by up to 25%. Why is this so powerful? Because gratitude shifts our focus away from what we lack and on to what we already have. It helps us reframe our experiences, even challenging ones, finding something positive to appreciate. One simple gratitude practice is to keep a gratitude journal where you write down 3 things you're grateful for each day. This small habit helps retrain the brain to notice the good things in life, building resilience against negative thinking. The second strategy is building strong social connections. Humans are wired for connection. One of the most consistent findings in happiness research is that strong relationships are the greatest predictors of long-term happiness. Social connection is so important that people with strong, close relationships tend to live longer, healthier, and happier lives. This doesn't necessarily mean having a large social circle, but rather a few deep, meaningful connections with people you trust and care about. Loneliness, on the other hand, can have the opposite effect. Studies have shown that prolonged loneliness can increase stress levels, weaken the immune system, and lead to mental health challenges. To increase happiness, focus on nurturing the relationships that matter the most, whether it's with family, close friends, or your partner. The third strategy is engaging in acts of kindness. The helper's high. When we engage in acts of kindness, our brain releases chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine, which makes us feel good. This can be as simple as complimenting a stranger, volunteering, or helping a friend in need. These small acts not only boost the well-being of others, but also increase our own happiness. Also, research shows that spending money on others tends to bring more happiness than spending it on ourselves. It seems that giving, whether it's time or resources, creates a sense of purpose and connection that enriches our lives. The fourth strategy is practicing mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness is about being present in the moment without judgment. It's a practice that allows us to become more aware of our thoughts and emotions, reducing the impact of stress and anxiety on our happiness. Meditation, in particular, has been shown to increase levels of happiness and reduces negative emotions by training the brain to focus on the present. With mindfulness, we can break free from the automatic negative thought patterns that often lower our happiness, whether through guided meditation, mindful breathing exercises, or simply taking a few moments of silence. When we incorporate mindfulness into daily life, this helps us cultivate a more peaceful and centered mind. And the fifth strategy is pursuing meaning and purpose. Happiness is not just about feeling good. It's also about living a meaningful life, having a sense of purpose, knowing that what you do matters can significantly enhance your life satisfaction. This might be through your work, your hobbies, or contributions to your community. Research shows that people who find meaning in their lives tend to be happier, even in the face of challenges. The key here is aligning your actions with your values. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? How can I contribute to something larger than myself? Purpose provides a foundation for resilience, enabling us to maintain happiness even when life throws curveballs. The sixth strategy is physical activity and well-being. Regular physical activity is another proven way to boost happiness. Exercise releases endorphins, the brain's feel-good chemicals, and can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. But beyond the chemical benefits, exercise also provides a sense of accomplishment and boosts self-esteem. You don't need to run a marathon to feel these benefits. Even moderate activities like walking, yoga, or dancing can improve your mood and overall well-being. These 6 intentional activities are where we make the greatest difference in our happiness. By making small, consistent efforts in areas like gratitude, mindfulness, relationships, kindness, and meaning, we can increase our happiness levels and sustain them over time. While genetics and circumstances may set the stage in our life, the actions we take each day can profoundly shape our experience on happiness. Now, I want to talk about rewiring your brain for happiness. There's a concept I want to talk about called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. This means that, contrary to the old belief that the brain is fixed and unchangeable, we can actually train our brains to be happier through deliberate practices. How neuroplasticity works: our brains are wired to adapt and change throughout our lives. Every time we learn something new, we form new neural pathways. The more we repeat a thought or behavior, the stronger those pathways become. This is how habits are formed, both positive and negative. Over time, certain neural circuits become ingrained, which is why some people may feel stuck in a cycle of negativity or stress. They've inadvertently strengthened those pathways. But the good news is with practice, we can rewire our brains to strengthen pathways associated with positivity, gratitude, and contentment. This is why intentional activities like gratitude, mindfulness, and acts of kindness are so powerful. They don't just feel good in the moment, they actually create lasting changes in the brain. Our brains like to be involved in negativity bias. This is a tendency to focus more on negative experiences than positive ones. This made sense for survival, as our ancestors needed to be hyper aware of threats in their environment. But in modern life, this bias can keep us stuck in cycles of worry, self-doubt, or pessimism, even when the threats are no longer life or death situations. Neuroplasticity allows us to overcome this negativity bias. One way to do this is by savoring positive experiences. When something good happens, whether it's a small win at work or a compliment from a friend, we often move on quickly without fully appreciating it. But by taking a few extra seconds to really savor these moments, we can help the brain encode these positive experiences, strengthening our happiness circuits. Mindfulness and meditation are powerful tools for rewiring the brain because they help us become more aware of our thoughts and reactions. When we meditate, we learn to observe our thoughts without judgment, which can help us break free from automatic negative thought patterns. Studies show that regular meditation can lead to increased gray matter in parts of the brain associated with self-awareness, compassion, and emotional regulation. This means that over time, meditation not only helps us feel calmer and more centered in the moment, but also creates lasting changes that make it easier to experience happiness and emotional balance. For example, in a famous study by Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, monks who had practiced meditation for years showed significantly higher activity in the left prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain associated with positive emotions like happiness, joy, and compassion. But even for beginners, just a few weeks of mindfulness can lead to measurable changes in the brain structure, showing that it's never too late to start training your brain for happiness. Positive psychology researchers have developed specific interventions designed to increase happiness through neuroplasticity. For example, exercise like 3 Good Things, where you write down 3 positive experiences every day for a week, have been shown to boost happiness levels for up to 6 months. This is because you're training your brain to focus more on positive events rather than letting the negativity bias take over. I like to use another powerful exercise, which is the best possible self. In this exercise, you imagine your life in the future, where everything has gone well as possible. Writing about this best case scenario for just a few minutes a day helps rewire the brain to be more optimistic and more forward focused, rather than dwelling on the what ifs. The takeaway: the science of neuroplasticity shows us that happiness is not just a fleeting emotion, but something we can cultivate through deliberate practice. By consistently engaging in activities that promote positive emotions, we can reshape our brains to experience more joy, resilience, and fulfillment. Now let's address an important question. Is happiness always a choice? While we've talked about the power we have to increase our happiness through intentional activities and mindset shifts, it's crucial to recognize that there are times when happiness isn't simply a matter of willpower or choice. There are times when happiness is out of reach. There are situations in life where happiness feels unreachable, even with the best intentions. For example, those experiencing clinical depression, anxiety disorders, or other mental health challenges often find that happiness isn't something that they can easily choose. These conditions can impact the brain's chemistry, making it difficult to feel positive emotions or engage in the behaviors that typically promote happiness. In cases like this, professional treatment, whether through therapy, medication, or a combination of both, may be necessary to restore balance. It's important to approach this topic with compassion and understanding. Saying happiness is a choice to someone in the middle of depression can feel dismissive and invalidating. Instead, the focus should be on providing support, understanding, and encouraging them to seek professional help. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and sometimes external support is needed to help someone get back to a place where they can actively pursue happiness. Life is full of ups and downs, and adversity is an inevitable part of the human experience, whether it's losing a loved one, experiencing financial hardship, or facing health challenges. These difficult moments can make happiness feel so far away. However, research shows that resilience, our ability to bounce back from adversity, plays a key role in our long-term happiness. Resilience is not about denying pain or putting on a brave face. It's about acknowledging hardship while also maintaining hope and a belief that things will get better. Some of the happiest people are those who have faced major life challenges, but have learned to grow through them, finding meaning and purpose, even during these difficult times. Also, people who have faced trauma often develop a greater sense of gratitude for life, which can lead to increased happiness over time. This is known as post-traumatic growth, which suggests that even in times of significant suffering, it's possible to emerge stronger with a deeper appreciation of life's small joys. It's also important to clarify that choosing happiness doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing negative emotions. Emotional bypassing, where we try to push away sadness, anger, or fear in favor of forced positivity, can be harmful in the long run. True happiness involves embracing the full range of human emotions and understanding that it's okay and even necessary to feel sad, frustrated, or angry at times. It's important that we learn to emotionally regulate rather than emotionally suppress. Emotional regulation allows us to process and understand our emotions in healthy ways, which ultimately leads to greater emotional well-being. Instead of fighting away negative emotions, we can accept them, learn from them, and then let them pass. This makes room for positive emotions to flourish. So is happiness always a choice? In many cases, we can choose habits, mindsets, and activities that increase our happiness. But we must also recognize that happiness is not about being perpetually joyful. It's about finding a balance between actively cultivating happiness and accepting life's challenges. It's about giving ourselves grace during tough times, knowing that happiness might not be accessible in every moment. That's okay. The key is to understand that while we may not have control over every situation, we do have control over how we respond to it. By accepting both the highs and lows of life, we open ourselves up to a more authentic and sustainable way of happiness. While we can take steps to increase our happiness, it's important to acknowledge that external factors, mental health, and life circumstances sometimes make it harder to choose happiness. In those moments, it's not about forcing joy, but about practicing resilience, compassion, and acceptance. Ultimately, happiness is not just a choice, but a journey, one that requires both active effort and gentle acceptance of life's ebbs and flows. And now to conclude. So is happiness really a choice? In many ways, yes. While genetics and circumstances play a role, we have more control than we might think through our daily habits, our mindsets, and the connections we nurture. The science of happiness shows that we can make choices that boost our well-being, helping us lead more joyful, fulfilled lives. As always, I encourage you to reflect on what makes you feel happy and fulfilled. I'd love for you to try some of the strategies we discussed today. Happiness isn't about being positive all the time. It's about living authentically, practicing gratitude, and embracing both the ups and downs of life. Thank you so much, friends, for being here. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the science of happiness. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little extra joy in their life. Until next time, stay extraordinary. Take care, friends. Bye-bye. Hey, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, you have to come check out More You, my community of like-minded women. We show up to create the highest version of ourselves and elevate the quality of our everyday along the way. Head over to ontracklifecoaching.com/join. That's ontraclifecoaching.com/join. I'd love to see you in there. And if you haven't grabbed your copy of the Mindset Makeover, head over to ontracklifecoaching.com/makeover and get a copy that teaches and inspires you to show up as your most extraordinary self.